no helicopters have been procured for me to go to golf course. Thank you.
I never said he wasn't a great politician. I'm just saying he's a officer.
It's supposed to be an interview.
How'd you play out there today?
Well, I found the conditions challenging, mostly because there's no grass on the golf course, but there never has been.
I'm thinking about the swag bag, and I have high hopes for the swag bag.
Trash. When you got 3 crevices on the green, your course is trash.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back. Beltway Golfer, episode 26. Alex Dixon here. Spring has sprung in the DC area. The Masters is in our rearview mirror. Congratulations to Hideki Matsuyama. Great Masters. Golf season is very much underway. Baseball season's underway. For Nats fans out there, slow start, but 162 games. We'll see. If you're following Beltway Golfer on Instagram, you may have noticed that we shot down to the Pinehurst region of North Carolina, got some really good golf in. I bring it up because both driving down and driving back recorded a couple podcasts, which will be the next 2 episodes. On the way down, sat down with Cliff Miller, the proprietor out at Schoolhouse 9. Holding off on publishing that because I'm going to sit down with Mike McCartan for kind of the second half of that podcast. And then on the way back from Pinehurst, stopped by Belmont Golf Course, just north of Richmond, and did a podcast with the CEO of First Tee Greater Richmond, Brent Schneider. They are operating and are the leaseholders for Belmont. As it is finishing up, it's really finished their restoration and renovation and getting ready to reopen at the end of May. So that'll be the next podcast. Keep an eye out for that. But for this episode, it's all about the First Tee of Greater Washington, D.C. Been around since 1999. Was really only in Washington, D.C. for its first 15 years. Expanded out to Northern Virginia in about 2014, and then in recent years has expanded into Montgomery County and PG County. They're at 24 courses now, but really all over the Beltway and Capital Region. For the podcast, sat down with 3 gentlemen. The first, the executive director, Clint Sanchez. Second, one of his youngest staffers, Lennard Long, DC native, who played his golf at Morehouse College. And then third, one of his longest running coaches, John Garner. Been coaching with the First Tee of Greater Washington, D.C. for over 20 years. Also a D.C. native, has got a lot of history and fun stories about Washington, D.C. and about golf in this town. So I thought there were 3 fun conversations. I enjoyed them very much. Hope you enjoyed as well. Here it is, episode 26, First Tee of Greater Washington, D.C. Enjoy. So we're out here at Langston Golf Course with Clint Sanchez. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing awesome. I'm glad that we've talked a couple times on the phone, but I'm glad we're finally kind of meeting face to face for the first time, and got a beautiful setting for it. It's the day before the Masters Wednesday.
Do you hear the music?
I can hear it. We're out here at Langston Golf Course, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And we met today because behind us, the camera might not be able to pick it up because the angle I put it on, but there's some of your classes are going on right now.
Yeah, we got a First Tee class going on right there with Coach John and Coach George, 2 of our most tenured coaches. They've been doing this for 20 years. 20 years.
Both so let's start with yourself. What is your title at the First Tee?
I'm the executive director of First Tee Greater Washington, D.C.
Greater Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And how long have you been with First Tee?
Since October 2012.
Got it. How long has the First Tee of Greater Washington, D.C. been around?
It started in 1999, so we celebrated a 20th anniversary 2 years ago.
Wow. And First Tee, was this one of the early chapters in First Tee?
It was. The First Tee was founded in 1997. Okay. So 2 years later, our chapter was founded. I would say we were in the first 20 or 30 chapters would be my guess.
And so what is the role, because First Tee is a nonprofit.
Sure, yep.
Each chapter, did I read that there's almost 200 chapters?
150.
150.
Yeah.
But all in the United States?
Yeah. No, 150, and that includes probably 8 or 10 internationally.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So do all the chapters operate individually, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we're all our own individual nonprofits. And so we're responsible for our own budgets. We do get guidance from national. We get the brand, which is a great brand, obviously, the First Tee brand. The curriculum, but we're our own. Each chapter is responsible for raising their own budget every year and operating their own chapter every year.
Maybe this is a bad analogy, but it almost sounds like a non-profit franchise in a way.
Something like that.
Something like that. Interesting. So what is the role of the executive director? You are the top dog in the DC organization, the DC chapter.
Yeah.
So what's your day to day?
My day to day, a lot of it is on the fundraising, leadership front. As I mentioned, we are responsible for raising our own budget each year, which has grown immensely since I started. Yeah. So our budget now is $1,150,000, so almost $1.25 million. So a fair amount of my role is building relationships in the community. We've got a very active board, so managing relationships with the board of directors who help us meet that budget. And then obviously overseeing staff. We've got a wonderful staff, full-time staff of 6, and they are excelling in their roles.
Full-time staff of 6. So that full-time staff does not include the coaches, or does that include the coaches?
That does not include the coaches. So you met one of our staff members, Dolly Davis. She's full-time with us. You'll meet Lennard Long today. He's full-time, so you'll have half the staff here today, which is great. And then our director of programming oversees the programmatic aspects of the organization. And she, her name is Katie Blodgett, does a wonderful job. She started in 2013.
Got it.
And then we've got a program manager in Maryland, Roger Brown, and then a program and communications manager, Nicole Verdon, who manages a lot of our volunteers, manages our volunteer process, and does a lot of our communications, social media. You see some of our stuff on the website, social media.
I did meet Katie Blodgett. She won't remember me, but for full disclosure, I was a one-time volunteer for First Tee. I should have looked it up. I think I told you in one of our phone calls. I can't remember what year, maybe 2017, about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
But down at Fort Belvoir. But she ran the kind of the training at East Potomac.
Yeah.
So if I'm biased, it's because I'm a former volunteer and I like this organization very much.
Yeah.
So is one of the you're talking about fundraising? Obviously, that's a huge component of it. I haven't been to any, but you do a lot of tournaments, right?
We do. We do a lot of golf tournaments each year. I believe we have six golf tournaments this year. Actually, no, seven golf tournaments this year. The biggest 2 that we have, Politics and Pros is a big event for us. That's been around. That's celebrating its 20th anniversary this year.
Wow!
And we've owned that event since 2015.
Does the bookstore up on Connecticut Avenue?
No, it's not. It's Pros, P-R-O-S. Yeah. No, I know. I've approached them about a sponsorship actually, and need to do so again, especially for this year. But no, that's an event that's for the government affairs community. Yeah. We have members of Congress play in that event. This year it's July 26th. This year it's at TPC Potomac. Nice. Which we're excited about. And we have a lot of PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, Korn Ferry Tour guys that come out, probably 8 to 10 pros that come out and play with the sponsors. That's a great day.
Yeah. So is that one of your big fundraising
It's one of the big events. That raises over 200. This year the goal of that event is $250,000. So that's 20% of our budget in that one event.
Nice. That's fantastic. So you do, so the money raises through foursome sponsorships.
Yeah.
You have an auction or anything like that?
Yeah. For that event we don't do an auction. We do an auction for another one of our events that we started last year. We started the auction piece of it last year, but that event is just straight sponsorships and then foursomes. Southern Company is the title sponsor. Comcast is the presenting. We have Comcast, NBC, Universal, so they've underwritten the event for years, which has been great. Nice.
I think I looked at the website for that one. That one for the average guy that wants to play in a First Tee tournament and help out. You have to dig into your wallet a bit to get into that one. Are there other tournaments that you do that, if the average golfer listening to this that maybe he's not ready to shell out
absolutely
top dollar to
that event is a high dollar event, $6,000 to $10,000 depending on the level of sponsorship for a foursome. But we do a fair amount of other events that people can can get interested, can get involved in
Sure.
at a lower cost point. One is coming up in about 5 weeks at Argyle Country Club.
Nice.
That's the 4th annual First Tee Greater Washington D.C. Pro-Am that we're having we've had it at Argyle each year, and it's a tremendous event. $250 for person to play individually. A team puts $750 in. They play with their pro, club pro, and it's a great day for the First Tee. Great day for us to have a lot of pros from country clubs and members from country clubs and golf courses around the area. Playing a fun play your own ball event.
Yeah.
And support the First Tee. So that's on May 4th at
May 4th.
At Argyle. Yeah, May the 4th be with you. May the course be with you. Is the theme for that day. Yeah, May 4th.
You dressing up as Chewbacca or anything?
I'm not gonna dress up as Chewbacca. Maybe Han Solo was always my favorite. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then we do a women's Cup Pro-Am, which is sponsored by Home Depot.
Cool.
That's on May 24th at Westfields. That's similar price point for individuals to play in that event as well. And that's coming up on May 24th.
May 24th. So those are soon.
Yeah, and then we do event at Riverbend, which we did debut a silent auction last year. That's an October event. It's October 4th. That's our 8th annual First Tee Greater Washington D.C. Golf Tournament. It's really for the better business community. We have sponsors from D.C., from Maryland, from Northern Virginia that all come together to support the First Tee. We always have a guest speaker that comes to that event. We've had 2 past PGA Tour commissioners. We had Tim Fincham came one year, Dean Beeman came one year. The first year we had it, John Feinstein was the first guest.
Tim Fincham, was he? Did I read that is he credited as essentially one of the founders?
He's one of the founders of
First
the First Tee. He was the first, the honorary. I mean, he was the board chair of the First Tee for years. And is still involved on the board. Him and Jay Monahan work closely, on the First Tee and the initiatives that are coming out of the national office in St. Augustine.
So we were just chatting with Dolly, one of your longest tenured staffer.
She started with us in 2012.
And she said in 2012 there was only First Tee at DC was only at 2 courses.
Yep.
East Potomac and Langston.
Yep.
And how many are at now?
24 program locations now, so from 2 to 24.
24 of those obviously aren't in DC because DC doesn't have 24
Correct.
courses. So you should really spread out all across the Beltway.
Yeah, so we, when I started in 2013, we were just in Washington, D.C. at the time. And then we expanded to Northern Virginia shortly after that in 2013 with a pilot program at Fort Belvoir, where you were. We had a program, we had some appropriations money. First Tee had some appropriations money that came through. Basically, if you had a military base in your service area that had a golf course on it, you could conduct First Tee programming, and this funding would help you get started.
Oh, nice.
So we did that 2013 as a pilot. There was no chapter in Fairfax County, no chapter in Northern Virginia. And we did a great job with it. The community embraced it. The Post, Fort Belvoir embraced it.
Yeah.
And things kind of took off from there. So we expanded to Northern Virginia officially in 2014 at other golf courses, other program locations.
How is that, what is, when you approach a new course, what is the sell?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the sell is, everyone wants to obviously grow the game.
Yeah.
And some of the courses that we're working with, they didn't really have a junior golf program.
Okay.
So we know we can help fill that need of getting young people into the game, presenting that opportunity, and I think it's a way for the professional development of a lot of these golf pros who want to do some coaching and want to lead the program. We're always approaching golf courses if they want to start out as a First Tee program location. The first question is, who's going to coach the program? Do you have someone energetic that's that wants to coach, that has that desire?
So a lot of times the course provides
that person. Not every time, but a lot of times they do. And we try to grow the program, internally from the golf course.
Interesting. And all the First Tee needs is a little bit of space on the range.
Access, access to the range, to the practice facility.
Yeah.
So we really try to be at places like this. You know, Langston's a perfect example where you've got, you know, 3 key components. You've got the driving range, you've got a short game area where you've got bunker, you've got chipping, and then you've got putting green, and of course you have a golf course as well.
So at each course, and I would imagine it's probably a little bit different everywhere, but you're doing classes with kids. Like, let's talk about the actual program and the classes a bit, like age levels, like how often you do classes.
Right. So each participant comes to us 1 day a week. They pick the program location, so they'll come to us 1 day a week at a different, whatever program location they pick.
Okay.
The sessions generally are 90 minutes. Sometimes we've shortened them to 60 in some locations because of COVID. And the kids, you know, have the program for 90 minutes. They're getting the golf skills, but they're also getting those life skills that are seamlessly integrated into the curriculum.
And the youngest age is what?
7. We start at age 7, and we go all the way up through 18.
For 18. So we talked about this. I've got a 5-year-old son at home, so I got about a year and a half to, you know, when they're at 7, most of the kids, have they swung a golf club before?
Generally not. Yeah. You know, for the most part, the first tee is that first entryway into golf. Not for all of our kids, but for a lot of them, the majority of them.
And then you talked about off camera. There's different levels within the program.
Absolutely.
So if you start at 7, you start getting some skills. Then what?
Yeah, everyone starts at the player level, and it usually takes, depending on, you know, where they are golf skill wise and what their grasp is on the core values and the life skills. It generally takes 1 to 2 years to go, probably closer to 2 years to go level to level.
Yeah.
So we start at the player level, and then they progress and they move on to the par level. Then they progress and they move on to the birdie level, and then the eagle level. Eagle level is really, generally the kids are in high school at that point. Maybe 7th or 8th grade, but generally in high school at that point. And then ACE is really for kids that have completed the program. There's service projects involved, and the kids are close to being an alum at that point.
Have you seen some kids essentially go that entire length from 7 to 18? And what kind of golfers are they after 11 years of being in the program?
We have. I mean, we've gotten some. You know, we've gotten some kids that go through the program and they can really play. Yeah. And then we've gotten some kids that go through the whole program and they love to play golf, but they are really the great leaders. And maybe golf is not their number one sport or their number one activity, but they still love being around the game. Yeah. You know, we've got a couple of examples. And one of them, you know, he didn't start at 7, but he started, I believe, at 9, maybe 10. That's Lennard Long, and he's on our staff right now. Joined the program, I believe, 2008, 2009. And when I came here in 2012, he was just in high school. I believe he was a freshman then in high school. And he was our first participant that could really, really play. Played all the way through. He was in the first tee all the way through the time he was 18. And then played college golf at Morehouse, and now we're fortunate enough to have him on staff with us. We've got a fair amount of our kids, Alex, now that are playing high school golf. It's really been wonderful to see. You know, a lot of the kids in Northern Virginia are on their high school golf teams now. So anybody that's listening to this that has kids within that age range, or will, in my case, in a couple of years, just go to firsttdc.org. Yeah, it's firsttdc.org. You can go on to our program site. You can go on to register, and that tells you about registering for the program. Yeah. And right now we're in the first of 4 sessions. So getting back to your earlier question about what does programming look like, it's 4 sessions throughout the year. Okay. So once you register for a session, like right now we're in spring 1. Hopefully the parents and the family has a great experience, and then they register right away for spring 2, and we have a summer session and a fall session as well. So 4 6-week sessions throughout the year. Love it.
I saw that you were there was some announcement that you're partnering with National Links Trust a little bit. Is there anything more to that other than just that you're going to stay at the courses?
Yeah, so we're honored to be a community partner of National Links Trust.
Cool.
Along with, I believe the USGA is on that list, the Evans, the Western Scholars, the Evans Scholar Foundation, Golf My Future, My Game, I believe, is a community partner as well. And we're really, we've had a great partnership with the DC courses in the National Park Service for years. They were original program locations of ours.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to even doing more, with the National Links Trust. And this weekend there's an opportunity that they're leading on Saturday, where they're going to honor Lee Elder.
Right.
And we're going to have a lot of our kids here that are here for programming on Saturday. They're going to be able to participate in that fun day.
I'm excited for that. I'm going to be here. By the time this is published, that'll probably be in the past.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. It should be fun.
Yeah, we are as well.
Yeah. So one other thing, one of the reasons I want to go back to a couple things back to the beginning of kind of the first tee. The one thing that's come up, I remember this. I saw it on the website earlier today when I was kind of prepping for this, but I remember this from the time that I had volunteered, was the stress of the 9 core values.
Yeah.
And there was one that most of them seemed kind of, I don't know if obvious is the right word, but the one, let me test you. Do you know what they are?
I do know what they are. Let's see how well I know them, though. Let's do confidence. Let's do responsibility. Let's do judgment. So confidence, responsibility, judgment, respect, courtesy, honesty, integrity, perseverance, and sportsmanship would be the last.
Well done. I was going to edit
you.
that out if you didn't get all 9, so don't worry about it.
Thanks. Bye.
But on the website,
I've good coaching from Katie and the team.
On the website, it lists them in order, and I think judgment is the last one. And judgment was the only one I kind of clicked into. And the way it was just one of the examples, the way it was described was club selection.
Yeah.
Like when you're on a course,
Sure.
and understanding maybe you don't always have to hit your longest club and driver. And I kind of read that, and I was like, I'm not sure I would have passed that part of the test.
Yeah.
I still struggle with that.
We actually do work with the kids on hitting different clubs and hitting different shots.
Yeah.
Not always hitting driver off the tee.
Sure.
And letting them kind of explore. Really, exploration is a big part of the first tee.
Sure. So on the, I don't know if it was on the Wikipedia page or some article I clicked on, but it kind of said that, when it was founded in 1997, that the concept, the thesis of it was simply, why don't kids play more golf?
Yeah.
And just kind of exposing the game to more kids and getting more kids in the game. I want to read you one thing, because this is one of the reasons that we actually first started talking, and it was something that came from a previous guest of mine on this podcast, Michael Williams. Mm-hmm. And Michael Williams, in the wake of George Floyd last summer, wrote an open letter to the game of golf, the industry of golf. And there was a passage within that letter that he wrote, and I copied and pasted here, so I'm going to read it. And it was just kind of an aside about the First Tee program that I think maybe you wanted to address. He says the First Tee program started out as a way to bring the game to underserved communities. Over time, corporate interests overwhelmed both the mission and the message. Now the First Tee has the Now the First Tee has the mission of generally, quote unquote, growing the game. Many chapters are now run from exclusive country clubs and are essentially finishing schools for the current, quote unquote, golf culture. I mean, I'll let you kind of respond to that, because I know you did. But I mean, it's obvious that at least in the DC area, the part about exclusive country clubs doesn't seem to be talking about this chapter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I think the mission of the First Tee has really not changed from the very early days. The mission was and still is to impact the lives of young people, to provide educational opportunities that build character,
Sure.
and instill life-enhancing values through the game of golf. So, I would just say the last word in our mission is golf, and that's the case for a reason. We don't exist to create, golfers. I mean, professional golfers.
Sure.
That's not why we're in operation.
Yeah.
We're in operation really to provide an opportunity for kids to play a game that they can play for a lifetime, that they can have relationships for a lifetime. And it's a program for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think...
Do you think what he's saying may have some truth to it in other chapters?
It could.
Yeah.
Each chapter, and you go back to, kind of the beginning. I mean, each chapter is their own individual nonprofit.
Sure.
But, each chapter should be operating, and that mission should be top priority for all and I know with us, our diversity rate is 65%, in our program. We provide.
What does that mean? 65% are non-white?
So 65% of our kids are, come from diverse backgrounds. So they're non-Caucasian.
Yeah.
It's a program, it's a program for everybody. We turn no one away. If you can't, pay a program fee, we'll scholarship you. If you're on, if you're in the military, you're free and reduced lunch benefit. You receive free and reduced lunch benefits at school. 100% scholarship. You don't pay anything for the program. If you need financial aid beyond that, we work with families to make sure that they're able to have access to these programs.
And the 24 courses that you mentioned, without
and zero of those are country clubs.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That was what I was going to ask.
So I will say this, that the country clubs that support the First Tee, have been tremendous to our chapter. We've had events there. We've had they've hosted kids for play dates. They've hosted kids for clinics. Programming wise, 24 program locations, and they're all public golf facilities. And I will say too, everyone could use the First Tee. If you're a young person at a country club, you can use those core values and those life skills.
Sure.
That we're teaching. And that's why we don't turn anyone away. It's a program for everybody. And we're really proud of that.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you're able to address Michael's statement, and I'm excited that I'm going to get to sit down with both John Garner and is it Lennard? I didn't want to pronounce,
Long. Yeah, no, you got
his first name wrong. But I think both of them will be able to speak even more on that topic as well. But listen, I really appreciate you inviting me out. I'm glad I was able to do it. As I said, I volunteered one session. It was one season, I suppose. It was several sessions 4 years ago. But I either need to volunteer again, which I've told myself I will, but haven't yet, or at the very least, I'll get my son out here as soon as he's of age.
When he's 7, absolutely, we'd love to have him. And this is great sitting down with you. We're going to play some golf. I know later this year I want to go out there and tee it up with you.
That's right. Before I let you go,
we'd love for maybe a couple of our kids can come join us. That would be a great round.
That'd be a lot of fun.
2 of our kids, it'd be great.
But before I officially let you go, a little about yourself. So you're a local guy. We talked on the phone. You're Montgomery County.
Yes, I am. I moved to the area when I was 11 years old.
Okay.
And I grew up in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Went to high school at Watkins Mill. I think we talked about that. Yeah.
We were both Montgomery County public school kids.
That's right. Yeah. Were you Walter Johnson?
Walter Johnson, yeah.
WJ, yeah.
And you live in Virginia now.
I do. I live in Alexandria. Yeah.
When you do get the opportunity to play golf, where was your last round? Or where do you play most?
I'm very fortunate, very lucky. I play at TPC Potomac.
Nice.
And it's been a tremendous. They've been tremendous supporters of ours.
Yeah.
It's great to be out there.
Sure.
And I play Laurel Hill a lot.
Nice.
And get out to some of the Montgomery County courses as well. Northwest played there, but yeah, I'd say most of my golf is played either at TPC, at Laurel Hill, and I do play at East Potomac and Langston when I have a chance.
That's awesome. I'm sure you got some game, but yeah, let's get out and play when we're able.
Yeah, I'd like that.
It's been great. Appreciate it.
Great.
Right.
Thanks a lot, man.
Clint. Lennard, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing awesome. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
So, Clint just told me a little bit of your background. So you kind of, when did you get started with the First Tee?
Probably at least 10, 11 years ago when I was 12 years old.
When you were 12 years old?
Yeah.
Were you, before you got into First Tee, did you play golf much?
Hadn't touched the club. Didn't know. My parents are both non-golfers. Don't really have anyone in my family that golfs.
So First Tee was really like when you first picked up golf.
The only connection I had. It was the first tee at that point.
At age 12.
At age 12. Yeah.
Listeners, remember that. We're going to come back to that because that's important. So age 12. So you got into the first tee, and then because what we're going to get to is you got some game here. And so how long before you really started to think like I'm getting good at this?
Early, to be honest. I kind of came out the gates loving. I mean, as they say, I caught the golf bug early, and I didn't let it go. I mean, I used to just swing in. My dad bought me a net after my first couple lessons in the backyard, and I would just be out there after school swinging, and chipping in the backyard, doing everything I could.
And so I saw online, and Clint mentioned it, that through the first tee, as you got better and better, you qualified for a tournament at Pebble Beach.
At Pebble Beach, yeah, and then played with Joel Edward, University of Texas alum.
How old were you then?
I would say that was my junior year, so I think 16.
So 4 years after you first picked up the club. And what did you have to do to qualify for that?
Well, you had to be consistent in the first tee, but then you also had to post tournament scores that were in the top percent. That you submitted an application with your tournament scores, and all the rest of the first tee participants across the country submitted theirs, and they picked the ones with the lowest.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Not many people get to play Pebble Beach in their first 4 years of picking up a club.
Yeah, yeah, definitely blessed to do that. It was such an amazing experience.
Was it a competitive tournament? Or
yeah,
what?
so I played. So it was basically like a two ball, like a best ball with the pro. I played well. Joel, I mean, he's a pro. He didn't care. I held up my part, but Joel played excellent. And we were able to make the cut, and I was able to play Pebble Beach on a Sunday.
How about
On
that?
the final day. I mean, you can't ask for much better.
How'd you do on 18?
18. Oh my God. I never went left. I never went left. On the last day, on the 18th hole, the stands filled up. I went left in the bunker for my third shot, hit a nice bunker shot, went from the back of the green, spun back to 10 feet, but I missed the putt. I missed the putt for birdie, but
hey, man.
It's all right.
Whatever.
Yeah, everybody was like, your shot was so nice. How would you get it to spin like that? And I was like, my hands were shaking. Like, I think that was the friction in the golf club. So
at 16, just a tap-in par on 18 at Pebble Beach.
It felt good.
I've been playing for I don't know how many years. I've never played Pebble Beach. That's awesome. So
I believe in you. You'll get there one
I'll get there one day. I gotta open up my wallet. So you went to your DC kid, obviously.
Yeah.
You went to what high school?
Woodrow Wilson, Northwest DC.
Woodrow Wilson, Northwest DC. And then, so they had a golf team?
They had a golf team my freshman year, and it was filled with seniors. So then by the time my sophomore year came around, we didn't really have anybody. So unfortunately, we just didn't have enough players.
Really? So they just didn't put out a team?
Couldn't get it together.
So let's fast forward to, you played some college golf. So how did you get, without playing high school golf, like how did you?
Yeah, so I mean, so you still have like summer tournaments and whatnot.
Got it, okay.
So I played in AJGAs, a lot of the MAPGAs around here.
Got it, okay.
What else? The Washington Metro Golf Association, I think.
So in high school, you were just keeping up your game through playing after school and on weekends and through the first tee.
Exactly that. So yeah, and then I was able to earn. Well, I actually initially walked on to Morehouse, and then I was able to earn a scholarship within my first 3 months or so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you went to Morehouse in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, Georgia.
Historically black university.
Yes.
You say you walked onto their golf team?
Well, yeah. So I had connections with my father is a Morehouse alum, and his classmate was actually the athletic director. So he was like, hey, yeah, we have a team, we have a spot for him, we don't have any money.
Oh, wow.
But if he wants to play, maybe down the road we can find him some money.
Oh, wow.
So, and then I got him, and he didn't really know golf, and he didn't really know my scores or anything. But I was like, all right, I can. And I looked at the team. I was like, I can play with these guys. Like, I'm all right.
Nice. So, what is golf? Is it the SIAC?
SIAC, yes.
SIAC, and that's a conference made up of HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
What's golf like in that conference?
It's interesting. It's interesting because it's top and bottom. The top players are going to shoot a 68. the bottom player is going to be a 110. You know what I mean? It's a mixed bag.
Sure.
You might play with a football player who they had to throw on the team because they needed a fifth.
Sure.
Or you might play with a guy who's dedicated and going on tour.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting experience, but it's also a really beautiful experience because you see, you know, all walks of life in that.
Yeah. And I saw so. Is it, Willie Mack on tour? He went to
Willie Mack.
HBCU, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did. I don't remember off the top of my head which one.
I think.
But yeah, and Willie Mack he actually comes around this area a good amount and is like supportive of the youth and whatnot.
So that's great.
Willie Mack is a good guy.
One of the and so in your conference, did you guys play Payne?
Payne College, yeah.
Which is in the news right now. I mean, this is Masters Wednesday, and from what I understand, Augusta in Augusta National, kind of in side by side with what they're doing with Lee Elder and him hitting out the first tee. I think they announced they were going to fund the women's golf team at Payne and maybe create some scholarships at Payne.
I haven't read about that. Yeah, but I'll definitely
so
look that up.
that's their reach out. But then also. Howard here, we were sitting here at Langston, and Steph Curry got involved.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. I'm a local kid, so I still probably would have went to Morehouse, but I mean it's beautiful to see that. I mean, because they went to Georgia and got fully outfitted by Callaway clubs and everything. Yeah, and I mean. I think his name's Sam. I might butcher
Purrier.
Yeah,
I might be pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, he just seems like he's doing such a good job with that.
Yeah. So you played at Morehouse. What did you do after school?
So after school, the summer immediately following, I actually got an internship with the Wizards on their community relations department.
Oh, nice.
So I was there it was a full year internship. So from fall, I would say early September until, when did COVID hit? COVID hit
March 2020.
March 20. So yeah, so it was supposed to go until, the end of the season, but it ended up getting cut after COVID.
So then you came back and started working here. At the first tee after
so the COVID hit. I got a call from Clint. He said, "Hey, we have a spot open. We'd love to interview for it." So I interviewed. Interviews went well. The Wizards said, "Hey, we're letting the interns go," and they treated us nice. They gave us like a month or two extra pay, so the Wizards did us really nice. And then so the interviews went well, and Clint was like, "Hey, if you're open and you're free, I have a job for you," and I took it, and it's been great ever since.
So what are you doing now for First Tee? What's your role?
So currently I am the communications and program manager for all First Tee things Washington D.C. So. Like between Langston, Rock Creek, and East Potomac, I manage all the classes. Try to make sure that with the new transition to National Links Trust, that between the two of us, we're on communications and we know, where each other are in the process, and there's good communication there.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you still get to play much?
Now that I'm back in the First Tee, and I'm around the course more. I'm playing a lot more, which feels like. I mean, just before this interview, I got a quick 8 or 6 holes in, which feels, it feels so good to have this as your office, right?
That's exactly right.
I was like, I posted that on Instagram. I was like, this is a nice office this morning.
So the fact that you came back to the First Tee, obviously this, had a big impact on you, and, you enjoyed it. What would you say to, I don't know, anybody that's got a kid listening to this that's, considering the First Tee? Like, what did you get as someone who was in the First Tee program for several years? What did you get out of it?
I do think the First Tee is it's what you make it. What you put in is what you get out. If you put in the work on the golf course and off the golf course, and I maintained pretty good grades in high school, and I reap the benefit. It's a system where if you do good, you get good. You reap the benefits, and there's a lot of opportunities out here that you can take advantage of. There's not many kids. Even there's plenty of better golfers than me that haven't played Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure,
so if that's the way you look at it, just put yourself in position where if you make the right decisions, you reap the most benefits, and the First Tee does that.
Excellent. I'll get you out of here in 1 second, but I was kind of touching on with Clint a little bit. A lot of, especially with everything going on with Lee Elder getting invited back to Augusta, hit the first the first ceremonial tee shot, and growing the game is obviously a big initiative, but also especially in underserved communities and in the African American community. How do you see, do you see, coming from playing college golf at an HBCU, are there opportunities for African Americans in the game? Is it improving? Is it the same? Is it worse?
I mean, there's a lot of, I'll say plain simply, there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's kind of bigger than golf, where golf, I mean, you come here and it's a white sport, and it's pretty dominated by white men, and typically with money. And when you get that demographic, you look at, how do you fit this underserved group into that? And it becomes very difficult, because you're entering a group that's been marginalized into the group that's most likely marginalizing them the most.
Yeah.
So it's, how do we negotiate that, and how do we be honest with ourselves and say, hey, this is what's fair, this is what's right, and this is what needs to happen. This is what happened in the past, and hey, how do we correct it and make sure that never happens again?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. You had mentioned you mentioned Instagram for a second. Are there any folks? There's a couple of guys that I know are doing a lot of good work. The first one that comes to mind, I just saw him on Golf Channel the other day. We could follow Roger Steele.
Yeah, I love Roger Steele.
Who on this topic, he's very passionate about.
Yeah. I'm Roger. Yeah, I love Roger Steele.
And Earl Cooper from East Side.
Morehouse alum. Earl Cooper.
Morehouse? Okay,
I was on the phone with him last Wednesday.
Oh wow, I didn't know
Great
that.
guy. Yeah.
He's a pro up in Wilmington, Delaware.
Yeah, and he has a East Side Golf. His co-founder, both of them are Morehouse guys.
Oh really?
They were
Okay.
on the Morehouse team together.
Were they were there after you or before?
They were
you?
there 2 years before me.
Okay.
So they're probably 2013 graduates.
Oh, cool.
And actually, I think they won the PGA Minority Collegiate Tournament in Florida.
Oh, really?
When they were at Morehouse.
But what do you think about that? I talked to some folks, with the impact of social media, kind of in every aspect of society, but in golf, leveling the playing field is not the right term, but there are. It gives folks a platform.
Yeah.
To kind of
To voice.
and opens a window into other people. All of a sudden Roger Steele, who's quite an orator on Instagram, and people that maybe wouldn't be able to see
or meet someone like him,
or understand his perspective, or just the perspective that he's trying to communicate. Do you think that social media, Instagram, may be able to open more doors, or?
I think in terms of perspective, I think you brought up a great point. In terms of perspective and understanding somebody's perspective, it just well might. But the problem with that is that requires me or all black golfers to riddle our story to you all the time. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, that's not.
It's a big ask.
It's kind of like, hey, what do you expect? Like, I don't want to give you have to constantly give you my story. It has to be an honest look at ourselves and say, we know what happens. We see what happens. It's not, in golf, it's not a secret. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it just has to be an honest confrontation with it.
Sure. Well, listen, I really appreciate it. I know you've got a class to coach or teach. I don't know where the kids went. But pleasure to meet you.
You as well.
And,
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, maybe we can get on the course someday, but I wish you the best of luck with everything.
Would love to.
Thank you, Lennard.
All righty.
Mr. Garner, John Garner, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm doing good. John Garner. It's my 21st year with the first tee.
21st year?
21st here at Langston.
Wow.
And it's been an enjoyable time the whole time we've been here. Just part-time, but I do work 5 days a week. So I'm here 3 days.
Okay.
And at East Potomac 2 days.
Oh, wow.
And
you've been doing that for 21 years?
21 years, yes.
Oh, my gosh. Are you the longest running coach?
I'm not the longest one who's been here.
Really?
Coach George is working with me. He's one of the original first tee coaches.
You must have come on not too long after they started, right?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Wow.
But it's been a good run. We've had a great time. I've had wonderful guys to work with. God, we've never had an issue here. We've always had really upright folks to come and help out. It's been great.
That's excellent. Are you? So you and I met once before. We met at the the long
long
drive
drive
competition
contest.
that was going
Yes.
on downtown.
Yes, that was a nice
which
event.
was a lot of
Yes.
fun.
Mhm.
But if memory serves, you're a DC native?
I'm DC native, Eastern High School, Rambler, 1964. I graduated from Old DC Teachers College, 1969.
How about that?
Got my master's at George Washington, 1973.
Well,
So
we
I'm a
got to
local
go.
guy.
We got to go back in time a little bit. I got some questions for you. So one thing is, so we're at Langston Golf Course right now.
Yes.
I'm looking across the first and ninth
Yes.
green,
Mhm.
first tee and ninth green at the old Spingarn High School.
Spingarn High School, Elgin Baylor, Dave Bing.
He just passed away
Sherman
last week.
Douglas. I mean,
Sure, Sherman Douglas, Dave Bing.
national champions. It's a wonderful, wonderful legacy sitting up there on that hill.
Do you remember what Langston looked like? Do you have any? Did
The only thing
you
we
ever
did-
come here?
No, the only thing we ever did here was to come over and run cross country here.
You did.
Yes. So no one that I can remember. None of the kids played golf that I can remember, and there weren't any caddies at Eastern that I can remember. Some of the teachers did because we'd read about them on Sundays.
Yeah.
Our phys ed teacher and the baseball coach, he and his son were Middle Atlantic father-son champions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
PE teacher at Eastern.
yeah, Jankowski.
How about that?
But in those days, it was just didn't. The thought pattern wasn't there.
Spingarn is right here.
Yes.
Did I understand this correctly? Spingarn did not have a golf team,
They never did. No.
which is amazing
It's
because
amazing.
there's literally a public golf course right across the street. Not
have-
even across the street, across the parking lot.
We have always said that, God, if I had been here, I would have had the national championship team 3 or 4 times because we'd have played here every day. We'd have shoveled greens and everything in the snow. We'd have been playing every day. I'm right in the front door, but it just never worked out. Now, they had good track teams. They were sort of cross country specialists. And matter of fact, the Spingarn track here is one of the few high school tracks in the country that has a steeplechase course.
Is that right?
Yes. The guy who was a track coach knew that if he put it in a steeplechase, his guys would score another 15 points over everybody else who didn't have one and
You
couldn't
have to remind
practice.
us, is steeplechase the one where it's kind of like hurdling, but you're jumping into water?
You got to jump in the water. Yes,
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
It's right there in the far corner over there. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever noticed that. I'll have to check that out. So why? I mean, I can speculate, but in your opinion, in your words, why do you think, like just as an example, why do you think a Spingarn never had a golf team? Or do you think maybe some of the students there did play golf? They just didn't have a team. Or
Some of them did play, I'm sure. But in my experience over the years, you've got to have a principal and a coach who are committed to that kind of idea. And that always wasn't the case for athletics in certain sports. Eastern, my 10th grade year, the principal was one of those guys where he was a sports fanatic. He had played against Lombardi in college.
Oh, wow.
And he'd let you know.
Sure.
I played across from him. I know the guy well, So you had the idea of, man, everybody's got to play something. You got to play it hard. You got to go all out. He would actually take a folding chair at the kickoff and sit at the end zone and wait for the team to come through. I'm serious, and he was dead serious about it. You better come through.
That's
It
funny.
was just that kind of
Yeah.
sure.
Back in, so is my history accurate that in around the time that you would have been in high school, there was at least one golf course east of the Anacostia?
Oh, those
the
they had. You still had
Was it Fort DuPont?
Fort DuPont,
Right.
and you still had the one on Southern Avenue.
So were those 9 holes or 18?
The one on Southern Avenue was 18.
It was.
Yes. It didn't close until, I'm thinking, the early 80s or something like that.
Oh, that late?
So in the old days, they actually have 3 courses over here because where the freeway is, right here, 295,
Yeah.
that was a golf course too. That was a 9-holer.
Really? So 2, you're saying 3 golf courses east of the river. Yet Langston right here, Spingarn didn't have a team, just as an example. Like, did Eastern have a team?
Eastern didn't have a team either, no.
were the demographics of the city any different then?
Oh, they were much different.
Much different.
And it's still demographically challenged. If you go to Stadium Armory subway station,
Sure.
in one stop, when you get to Minnesota Avenue, in one stop, there's a $60,000 household difference. And they did a study on that. It's the largest one in the country in one subway stop.
Wow.
So from one side of the river to the other side of the river, it's a completely different city.
Was that not the case in the 60s?
It was the case then, but it was more. How do you explain it? As the 50s came in, like Eastern had only allowed African Americans in when I was there. We were only the 6th class of African Americans.
Oh, really?
So because it had been all Caucasian. The Eastern was all white. Anacostia was all white. Coolidge was all white. Wilson was all white. Roosevelt at one time was all white. So
where did the African American kids go?
You can only go to Armstrong and Dunbar. There were only 2 schools.
Regardless of how far away you lived.
It didn't matter where you lived. So my mother went to Dunbar. My dad went to Armstrong.
How was that?
Yeah.
What is Armstrong now?
Armstrong was the technical school.
Okay.
And Coach George, he's an Armstrong guy.
Where was Armstrong?
The Armstrong right across the street from Dunbar.
Okay.
Right there on.
So that is not there anymore.
No, it's called something else now. Yeah, they closed it up probably 15 years ago or so.
So I guess one of the things I was getting at was but the demographics east of the river back then, was it more white and black, or
it was more mixed. Yeah. Let's say from where we're sitting right now, the top of the hill here was always African American.
Okay.
The bottom here, Kingman Park, was built specifically for African Americans.
Okay.
My grandmother's place was here, still here. Mm-hmm. And then back where we were, the classes in elementary school, junior high were mixed until maybe 61 or 62. By that time, this part of the city was mostly African American.
Okay.
Most of the white folks had sort of moved out.
Interesting. I guess what I'm curious about is, African Americans and golf in this city. Mm-hmm. Were there? Do you think there were a lot of African Americans using those courses east of the river back then?
Not too many.
Not
no.
Too many.
Most of the African Americans actually played here because they felt comfortable here. Joe Lewis played here.
Sure.
Calvin Peete played here. All the guys who had to come through the circuit had to play here.
Got it.
And then from here, you play Forest Park in Baltimore, because that was the next closest African American course. And then you could go up. There was another one outside of Philly. That was and you sort of hopscotch.
There's certain courses where they probably felt more welcome and more comfortable.
Oh, sure, absolutely, sure. Yes. And that's why even the food here was different than it is in East Potomac. Here you could get pancakes and sausage and hash browns.
I had Ernie Andrews.
Yeah.
I had Ernie Andrews on this podcast,
yeah.
And he talked about the time when Mike Tyson came into town, and even though he didn't play golf, his hosts brought him to the Langston Clubhouse because they had some killer wings.
They had killer wings, yes. No. And they used to put cornmeal in the pancakes.
Is that right?
Which African Americans thought was like, wow, that's like down home stuff. A cornmeal pancake. Man, it's delicious too, I'll tell you.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So when did you get into golf?
Not until maybe 85, when the Paul Berry program started at East Potomac.
Tell us about that. What is that program?
Paul Berry, the sportscaster. He was the anchor on Channel 7.
Okay.
He was an avid golfer, and he started a program after school, 1 day a week, at East Potomac, for all of the junior high schools who fit into a high school that didn't have golf. So at my school in Anacostia, obviously Ballou did not have a golf team, but his thought was if you could get the junior highs playing, the rest of the kids would the whole program would come.
Okay.
He is still, his program is still at East Potomac.
Really?
He's still doing it, yes. He lives on the Eastern Shore and everything, but he still makes sure his program still goes. So he teaches kids who
So junior high school kids from all over the city.
all over the city, who would not get a chance to come to, say, a first T class, because here we are limited in the number of kids we can have. Plus, you got to sign up. In the past, we had always been free.
You know, there must be still a lot of high schools in the city that don't have golf teams.
Oh, absolutely, sure. No, it's just one of those things where, again, you have to get the principal and the coach, and you have to get a coach there who really wants to have one.
Sure.
So that's the way I always saw it anyway, and that's for any sport.
Yeah.
You know, my old junior high school now has wrestling, which I never had a chance to do because who are we going to wrestle against? We didn't have the mats, we didn't have the equipment, but now all that stuff is in place, and you had a guy there who was ready to teach it and went on with it. You know.
So what got you into golf?
A couple of guys at school said, you know,
85.
this was like 85. I was already doing, I had just started doing crew
Are you in your 20s
then.
or are you in your 30s?
I was in my 30s.
Okay.
And mostly basketball, track, kind of stuff.
Sure.
Did that all the time. But then when golf came up, we sort of said, well, let's go out and play once in a while. We started playing. And I remember one of the teachers who grew up in Southwest, lived right across the river from East Potomac, had never been to East Potomac.
Really?
Because African Americans didn't go to East Potomac. They didn't even cross the river. It was just a walking bridge, maybe from here to that tree right there. They never went there. And there were 3 courses there.
Yeah.
They never went. So that's the way the city was sort of broken down into smaller units. The African Americans in one part.
They kind of viewed East Potomac as the white course.
Yes. And nobody knew anything about Rock Creek. Most people, you only went to the southern part of Rock Creek. You didn't go to the northern part where the golf course is.
Yeah.
Didn't know. Most of us didn't know it was there.
Really?
Nope. So growing up here, it was a little different.
Yeah.
You know, you had to make some adjustments growing up. You know, but we all did basically.
I mean, this city, it's. I mean, we can. We got to get back to golf, but
yeah,
I mean,
sure.
This city is, you know, there's a lot going on in the last 10, 20 years with gentrification and demographics changing. But you know, when I was growing up, and I grew up just outside the city in Montgomery County, but it was a very segregated city.
Oh yeah,
It was kind of east of Rock Creek Park and west of Rock Creek Park.
It's still a southern city.
Sure.
In terms of some of the thought patterns, it was always considered to be a southern city.
Yeah.
Now my mother is from Montgomery County, from Bealsville.
Okay, sure.
You know, so we were always in and out. And Sunday afternoons we were always going up. Mom would always bring 2 chickens back.
Okay.
Bring their necks in the backyard. We'd have fresh chicken on Sunday.
Okay.
That was a normal thing for us.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, I can sort of look around and just see how things have changed so much. You know, you have a B&B right here across from the golf course. You've got new condos on Benning Road, of all places. See, in the old days, the circus used to come here in this parking lot on this side. You had a streetcar that ran straight down that went out to Kenilworth Avenue, and then the streetcar would go up and make the turn and come back. And then you had another streetcar that went to Barney Circle, but that's as far as we went.
Okay.
You didn't cross. You didn't go up toward Branch Avenue. Didn't go that way. Sorry, just didn't go.
So you got into golf maybe a little bit after Lee Elder was running things
Right
in
after,
Langston.
yes. I met him a few times up here.
Yeah.
You know, but we didn't bring our kids here because they didn't have the practice facility they have at East Potomac.
Oh yeah.
East Potomac had.
So when did this practice facility right behind us go?
This was only built about 15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. The practice facility at East Potomac they had the 2 greens there in the front of the building. You had another green in the back. You had the covered range. I did a golf clinic one time for German television in a snowstorm because the kids were underneath the covered heated stalls. And I'm standing out in the middle of the field, and the guys rolling the camera, and I'm screaming at everybody, and okay, let's play. And the balls are flying. You couldn't even see the balls flying. The snow was just coming down. To me, it was one of the best things I've ever done.
That was while you were with the First Tee?
That was, while I was with the First Tee, yes.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with the First Tee?
I believe Kim Thomas called me one day when I was thinking about retiring. And she knew I had golf teams coming down to East Potomac a lot.
Okay.
And she said,
what line of work were you retiring from?
Oh, I was a phys ed teacher.
Okay.
Yes, I did 35 years in the system.
What
so
school?
I at the Johnson Junior High School.
Okay.
And I was phys ed teacher and history and geography teacher.
Oh, wow.
So I would, my later years, now see when I went to DC Teachers, we were taught, we got a classical education, by the way. You were supposedly be able to teach any subject that was given to you. You could teach it.
Okay.
Because we had art appreciation,
Sure.
we had music appreciation, you had the whole thing. We had theater.
Were you ever asked to do that as the PE teacher?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, you had to go through the whole thing. Sure. Oh, yeah. And it was difficult getting out of there. You had to take a speech test.
Got it.
And I can laugh about it now. You needed a Boston accent, and you had to do it. You had to do that T and that P and that B, and throw a little extra in there to make sure the people in the back of the room could hear it correctly.
Yeah.
That's how you got out of school. So once you learned the little tricks, it was like, okay, I can do this.
The First Tee, then second nature. I mean, you were teaching kids
Oh my gosh,
for
yes.
3 decades.
Absolutely. And once I got into the golf thing, I always laugh about this. I could put 65 kids in a gym class with a golf club in their hand out on the athletic field, and no one would ever get hurt because everybody would hit one ball at a time. Right on down the line, and everybody had to watch everybody else. But they got exposed to it. Yeah. They had never had a golf club in their hand. Yeah. But I said, well, they're going to have one now. And so you moved on from there. Crew was the same way.
Yeah.
None of us had growing up on the Anacostia, we were pretty much afraid of the river. We didn't swim in it.
Johnson had a crew team?
I had crew for 12 years, yes.
Really? How about that?
Yes, we had, we bought 2 shells from Yorktown High School in Virginia.
Yeah.
And my buddy who was with me at the time, he was the coxswain at Cornell in '55. So we had a Cornell connection. They sent us all the equipment we needed.
How about that?
We got the Park Service to give us a piece of the 11th Street Bridge. And we were the first team to ever crew on the Anacostia River.
All right, so we'll fast forward to the First Tee.
Sure.
So you've been involved for 21 years.
Yes.
Working 5 days a week,
Yes.
coaching.
Yes.
Kids with the First Tee.
Yes.
You must have seen a lot.
It seems like a lot when you think about
You
it.
coach
though.
all the different ages?
All the ages, yes. We go from 7-year-olds up to 18-year-olds. And sometimes 18-year-olds are more fun because a lot of them are just getting into it for the first time.
Yeah.
And you give them a set of clubs and you say, guys, we're going out to play on this course here and there. What?
You must get some kids that are just like, this isn't for me. I hate this. Or is it,
it's a combination of things. You get some who really.
You and I love golf, but not everybody does.
Oh no, not everybody. No, and not everybody's ever even seen it. We even get kids who've never watched the golf match because some of the kids don't have TVs.
Yeah.
And that sounds a little unusual, but that's the way it is. Mm-hmm. I can show you 5
Your mom or
kids.
dad drops them off and said, give this a try.
Give it a try. Sure. And you get that same group. Now, if you notice, this is what I call a great place to learn to play because of the ambient noise here.
That's great.
If you can practice here and concentrate and make a putt here, anywhere else is a gravy train.
Sure.
Man, you don't hear anything but birds.
Yeah.
Now, we saw the 3 eagles here today, too. I told that to Clint. We have 3 bald eagles that live in the back. All 3 of them were right in this tree right here, and they started diving for fish, and the kids were like, oh my gosh, what a place this is. Where else can you be on a main street and the only course in the world that has a subway that goes over top of it, and 3 bald eagles are here at the same time. To me, you add all that together, and the historic nature of this course, I wouldn't want to be any place else.
No, it's an incredible setting.
It is.
It beats sitting in front of a iPad or playing video games all afternoon.
Sure. And it's reasonably convenient.
Do the kids do they get at some point through your classes and your sessions, they get to go out on the course and play?
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, we would have taken some kids out. If the course is not too crowded here, we wait till the last tee time until the kids play number 1, and then switch over and play number 18.
Yeah.
And this is a kid who's never been on a course before. You take him put him at the 150-yard stake right there, and let him play down to it's a par 5, but they see what it is. Gee, that's a long way down there, but you're playing in from the 150s. Let them do that a couple of times to see what the game is all about. Then you bring them back, and now we're going to go through. Next week we're coming out of the sand trap. The next week we're going to be pitching from this tree to that green down there. Wow, that's a tricky little shot.
Yeah.
You got to go over a waste area here. You got stuff to maneuver through. So once a kid comes out of here, they're sort of ready to play. They're ready to play any place.
I sat down with Lennard. Do you remember when Lennard was?
I remember
was
Lennard was a little kid about that tall. Yes.
Sounds like he picked up the game quick.
He picked it up pretty well. Yes. And so you get kids. You get all kinds of.
Are there a lot of other stories like that, or is that
a lot
pretty
of
rare?
them? Sure.
Really?
No, we got kids who are club pros.
Really?
Kids who go to the PGA school here at Maryland Eastern Shore.
Sure.
When they first opened, I think we sent 3 kids out of the program.
Oh wow.
And it wasn't even the first tee hadn't even started yet. Really, these were kids out of Race of Boys, Langston Boys and Girls. I'm a member of that group too.
Okay.
So, but when it opened up, we said, "Hey, we got to get kids down there." And
Langston
our kids,
Boys and Girls. That's a group based here.
That's a group that's based here. Yes, that's the. They're probably 20-some years old too. No, he started before that. He started before the first tee. Because my daughter was in his group originally, and then switched over.
And that's another golf-based group?
That's another golf-based group here, yes.
Very neat.
So it's kind of interesting. It's a good, solid place to learn to play the game.
Yeah. So you were about to retire, and now you've been doing this for 20-plus years. Any sign of stop?
As long as I feel good, I can do this with my eyes closed, you know?
Yeah.
Every day is different. Every class is completely different. You know, you can be doing the same drill, and you get another 8 group of kids come in. It's going to be a completely different class, because that first class you might have had 8 kids who know how to play, and boy, you put them on that tic-tac-toe, and you can do it a lot of different ways, but you can make it really hard. They get a kick out of that. The next group you try to do it, they'll look at you like, what is this? What are you playing?
I'm looking back at the class going on right now.
Right,
And there's 2 things that jump out at me right off the bat. One, it looks like there's more girls than boys.
Yes.
That's cool.
That's a typical class. We do get a lot of girls here. And matter of fact, yesterday at East Potomac, I had an all-girls class.
Is that right?
I do the all-girls group.
And the second thing...
we do it on purpose sometimes, too.
Is that right? The second thing I noticed is that most of the kids look like they're from minority backgrounds.
Yes.
We always talk.
Well, see, now that varies too.
Sure.
See now, let me see. I can show you my Saturday morning class. That's all Caucasian.
Sure.
It just sort of worked out that way.
Yeah, right.
Most of my neighbors are surprised that when they see my car in my neighborhood, and I drive an unusual-looking yellow Subaru. That's the guy at Langston, you know. So they bring their kids up here because a lot of them did not know there was a golf course on this side of Benning going out this way.
Clint
See,
told
most
me
people don't go this. They don't go that direction.
Clint told me there was a reason that you drive a yellow car,
I'm colorblind.
which is fascinating. So
Yes.
how does that impact your golf game?
I use the yellow ball. That's the only ball I can see.
I don't know much about color blindness. What
Yes.
is that? What is
I'm
yellow?
I'm red and green. That's the reason I'm not a Marine pilot, because when I went to flight school, or to join, I took the little test, and the guy said, "Geez, you guys passed the math part of it?" I said, "Yep." I went into a little room, and they shot lights on the wall, and I'm asking the guy, "When's the thing going to start?" He said, "We're already finished." I said, "I didn't see anything." He said, "Yep, that was it." You know. So, but then I found out there were only 3 African American Marines
So you
had gone to flight school, and they wanted to keep it at 3. And I said, "Hey, I got it. I got this. I understand." My dad was Navy, so he knew the whole. He took us to a Navy to a Marine meeting one time, Marine Reserve meeting.
Yeah.
He says, me and 4 of my buddies. He says, "You guys are not going to feel comfortable in here." And we said, "Get out of here!" You know, we play ball with anybody and everybody. It doesn't matter. We did not feel comfortable in the meeting. It was just that simple because there was no other black guys in there but us.
Interesting.
So growing up here, you sort of understood, and you knew you had to make your own way. It was just that simple.
How do you view the future of Langston and golf in this town? National Links Trust is now.
They have done a great job so far, and it's still a very homey kind of place. We had 3 guys who just came up the hill, maybe just about the time you got here. All 3 of those guys, the youngest one was 86.
Really?
And they still play.
How about that?
And they go back to the early days.
Yeah.
You know. So you still get that vibe here. You don't see it as often because you come here on a Saturday and you would swear it's a country club or something up here because you drink as much beer up here as you want and that kind of thing now, which is unusual for a Park Service course. But they probably sell more beer than the liquor store across the street does, easily.
Do you get the sense? I'm not suggesting that you necessarily have your pulse on the entire Langston or African American golf community around Langston, but do they view the change in leadership as a positive? Are they optimistic about the future here at Langston?
I'm thinking most of them are optimistic about it. Sure, the place could always. This was always like the poor sister of the group anyway. East Potomac makes money hands over foot, you know, because they got all those leagues and stuff there. They got the 3 courses. You got a tremendous practice facility. You got 3 actually practice holes at East Potomac. You don't have that here, so we have to fit everything here. But you had enough variety here to still make the place quite interesting to a lot of people. The older guys who always used to hang here, you see fewer of them because most of them are gone now. But the course still has a very important purpose being right here. And I always tell people the history of the place. The only reason this course is here is because Mary McLeod Bethune was friends with Eleanor Roosevelt. And she asked Eleanor to ask asked the president to ask Harold Ickes if they could build an African-American course in Northeast because she knew that we couldn't play downtown or couldn't play anywhere
Harold
else.
Ickes was the Secretary of the Interior.
He was the Secretary of Interior, right, under Roosevelt. And that's why this course is here. They found this spot of land. Now this side right here that we're sitting on now, this is the old front 9. The back 9 here was not put in until '54 when they could clear.
What was over there before, do you remember?
That was part of the old Pepco plant. There used to be a big plant right there where that cell tower is right now.
Yeah.
You couldn't even see anything further than that because that plant went from.
And what's there now, like the
back.
Kenilworth Machine Yard or something?
That was
That was part of the Pepco plant?
That was part of it, yes. So we could tell when they would burn trash over here because you come out in the morning and your car is all sooted over with white ash. Oh boy! Well, that's where we get our electricity from. Let it go, you know. So growing up in the neighborhood was unusual. It was unusual.
Well, listen, this has been. I really appreciate you taking some time to sit down. Congratulations on 2+ decades as a coach here.
It's my pleasure, and it's great that you could come here. You are welcome to come here anytime, as you know.
I appreciate it.
And I just glad we had a chance to meet.
Absolutely. Thank you, John.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
I don't have a good golf game, but I don't really care. I'm a regular dude living in D.C., and I want to know about DC-centric golf stuff. If you can tell me something that I don't already know, then that is great for me. I don't want the regular stuff. I want exciting stuff. I want different stuff. I want stuff I can't hear elsewhere. But I want it to be about DC golf.